will last me throughout the year. I want to walk Santa. Help me feed me family. I walk Santa. Help me keep me dignity. Ginger and turkey, costing plenty money. When I'm on there walking, it is humiliating. I walk Santa. Like the Christmas wish, keep it on your list. Whoa Santa, whoa Santa. Pressure. When you see Christmas time drawing nearer, my family looking at me with hope. I am supposed to be the provider, yes. Without the work it's so hard to cope. Good God, I want the kind of Christmas cheer that will last me throughout the year. I want to walk Santa. Help me feed me family. I want Santa. Help me keep me dignity. Chicken, beef and turkey, costing plenty money. When I'm on there walking, it is humiliating. I walk Santa. Like the Christmas wish, keep it on your list. Voices. Go tell it on the mountain. Tell somebody. Go tell it on the mountain. What you saying? I have a dream that one day the home will be able to enjoy Christmas like the rich. Have a belly Christmas. Listen, when you walk in, you just have your manhood. When you walk in, you have dignity. So Santa boy, if you want me feel good, I want you grant this request for me. Hear me. I want the kind of Christmas cheer that will last me throughout the year. I wanna walk January. I must buy thing for my mommy. I wanna walk February. I must buy thing for my baby. Pokemon and Dolly, costing plenty money. When I'm on there walking, it is humiliating. I walk Santa. Like my Christmas wish, keep it on your list. Whoa Santa, whoa Santa, whoa Santa, 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 pressure. What are that whole thing that Santa is no laughing matter? I was never home. It's a work I stay for. I want to laugh. I want to work to take care of my family. Yes, I want Santa. Oh God, I want Santa. Help me keep me dignity. I want Santa. Help me feed my family. I want Santa.
Ion Dependency with Garth and Natasha.
Reality radio, at its best, where every life is a biography.
Sundays at 10 a.m. and exclusively on I95.5 FM.
And streamed live on the Ion Dependency Facebook page and YouTube channel.
Ion Dependency with Garth and Natasha.
Reality radio, at its best, where every life is a biography.
Sundays at 10 a.m. and exclusively on I95.5 FM.
And streamed live on the Ion Dependency Facebook page and YouTube channel.
Ion Dependency with Garth and Natasha.
Reality
Ion
radio.
Dependency with Garth and Natasha.
Reality radio, at its best.
Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago, and welcome to Independency right here on I95.5 FM, live on the Independency Facebook page and YouTube channel. Good morning, Natasha.
Good morning, Garth. Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago. Welcome to Independency.
Thank you very much for joining us this morning. We have a huge morning for you this morning. We have celebrities lined up, waiting to speak with you. And of course, in studio with us is Senior Superintendent Roger Alexander, and coming in via Zoom is trying to hold up, but sick for the while, Marlan Hopkinson.
Eddie Robin.
Yeah. See what they like?
Marlan Hopkinson, good morning to you. Let's make sure we're hearing you.
Good morning, everybody. You hearing me?
Like he lip syncing.
Uncle Marlan,
Uh-huh.
good morning.
Yeah.
Put up some volume for me.
You hearing me?
Yes,
Yes,
we're hearing you now.
we're hearing you. You're on the receiving end of a link now, eh?
Right.
Normally this was the other way
Let me
around,
just
but
explain, huh?
today is Sunday
Let me just
edition.
explain the reason why I'm not there. It is because I've been fighting a cold and I didn't want to come into studio and give everybody else it. Because I
Yes,
know
no, we don't
Alexander
want
would be
it.
somewhere on the street telling people how I gave him the cold. So that's why I'm not there
Right.
today.
So Marlon, what you had the F&M?
You see? That is not important, Alexander.
foot and mouth
What is
disease, eh? What's going
important
on?
is that what is important is that I saw you on Instagram the other day and you had white hair. I'm seeing that your hair is black today. I don't know what is happening.
Listen, and it's grow like that giraffe. Part
So-
of it, the lower part is dark, but the upper part is white.
So, ladies and gentlemen, so you're hearing this dynamic duo, but before we start with them, let's go to another dynamic duo who's holding on the phone. And Marlan and Senior Soup guest hosting with us this morning, so they get to ask questions if they wish, or just listen and contribute if they wish. But we're going to start with Natasha, Dr. Ayanna Sebro,
Yes.
and the
Dr. Sebro is the technical director of the NACC, which is the National AIDS Coordinating Committee. And also she's joined by Nicole Hendrickson of Fire Circle, who's also an NACC member. And of course, we are talking about HIV and AIDS this morning as a follow-up to World AIDS Day, which would have been on the 1st of December.
And we end in 15 days of activism against gender-based violence as well.
Yes.
And I know Marlan would have done a lot of interviews where that was concerned. So guys, just join with us in welcoming Dr. Ayanna Sebro and Ms. Nicole Hendrickson. Good morning, ladies.
Morning. Thanks so much for having me. And morning to you guys.
Good morning,
Morning,
ma'am.
Dr.
So let's dive into this quickly so that we can get the public aware of this situation here. Dr. Sebro and Ms. Hendrickson have been in the forefront. You know, there are people who live in with and who have survived HIV. But Doctor, could you tell us about the National AIDS Coordinating Committee? I'm not hearing the doctor. Dr. Sebro, hold on a second.
Can we try to get
Dr.
Dr.
Sebro still there?
Sebro back on the line? I don't know if she's on the line still or if she's...
No, she got cut off.
We've lost her. We may have lost her, so we try to get her back. Again, just to remind you, the audience, we are doing this segment in collaboration with the Gender and Child Affairs Division, Office of the Prime Minister. And in keeping with, again, as we said, World AIDS Day and keeping the awareness alive. I mean, most of us, probably in 2024, think that HIV and or AIDS is a thing of the past. It's not a major concern, a health concern, a social concern in Trinidad and Tobago or the world still. But I can assure you that it is. And Dr. Sebro and Ms. Hendrickson will attempt to put the disease in its perspective as we learn more about what the situation is in Trinidad and Tobago in terms of infections and testing and stigma and discrimination, which is obviously still a thing.
So we have
her
Dr.
back?
Sebro back, yes.
Okay, great.
Dr. Sebro?
Hi, good morning.
Right, so you can
Morning.
go ahead and tell us about the NACC.
Okay, so the NACC is the National Coordinating Committee, and that committee is supposed to support and augment what is happening for implementation for HIV across the country. And so, where, for example, the Ministry of Health would be responsible for testing and treatment, or the Ministry of Labor would be responsible for what happens in the workplace environment, the National AIDS Coordinating Committee is responsible for strategy and the policies to support the HIV response, as well as monitoring, so that we can have check-ins around what is happening for HIV in Trinidad and Tobago, and also engage and support CSOs who would be working in HIV.
Right. So what is the state of affairs when it comes to HIV and AIDS in Trinidad and Tobago today, in terms of infections and testing and the stigma and discrimination, which is how most of us got to learn about HIV and AIDS in the 80s? Dr. Sebro? Oh. Oh. Oh, we lost Dr. Sebro again.
Something has to be wrong with this person's phone because she is locked in on the dial.
All right, as we try to get Dr. Sebro back on the line, again, we are speaking about, in this first half an hour, speaking about HIV and AIDS. She just talked about the National AIDS Coordinating Committee, which is a thing. And it is really a committee of physicians and NGO workers and social workers and the like, which would coordinate the government's response to HIV and AIDS. So please bear with us, to our viewing and listening audience, as we have her back. Dr. Sebro?
Hi, good morning.
Morning again.
Not sure what's happening this morning.
I don't know. We keep dropping. But
Yes.
my question for you before you went off last was, what is the state of play right now, currently in Trinidad and Tobago, when it comes to HIV and AIDS?
So one of the things the different things we would focus on would be testing and the prevention areas, treatment areas, some of the things we would like to see change in terms of the enabling environment, in addition to the policy and strategy. So a lot of times people would hear us talking about the 95, 95, 95, and that is where we're looking at how many people we have tested, how many people we have on treatment, and how many people have been linked to successful, and who have successful outcomes in terms of therapy. So for Trinidad, we are testing more than, we aim to test more than 95% of people who may be HIV positive. We want people to be aware of their status, so we are over 90 there. But for people who are aware of their status and linked to treatment, we are in the 60s for that. So the data suggests that we only are aware of about 63% of people who are aware that they're HIV positive. Only 63% of them have linked to care. And so we are trying to figure out what are some of the factors affecting movement from testing to treatment. And then once people are on treatment, then more than 95% of them are successfully on treatment. So once people are on treatment, there's that, but we have that gap.
Right. If I could just interject, are you targeting, you said 95% of the population. Is this population of persons who are sexually active, or is it everyone?
So at this point in time, because sometimes people don't speak of their sex, where they are functioning. So we are targeting the entire population in the first instance.
Okay.
So we have data for the whole population, but when we estimate how many people are infected, we are using data we have to estimate the total amount of people we expect to be HIV infected.
Yes.
And of those people that we expect to be HIV infected, what proportion of them have we tested?
And how easy is it now to get tested? Because I know that when the epidemic first came to the scene, it was a challenge because mainly of the stigma and discrimination that accompanies it. How easy is it for you to get an HIV test today?
So, from the viewpoint of ease of getting an HIV test, separate and apart from the stigma, Trinidad and Tobago has rapid testing sites that people can access in their local health centers. If you were to go on the Ministry of Health's website, you would be able to see all of the rapid testing sites in the different regions, Northwest, Southwest, Eastern region, Tobago RHA, and the North Central RHA, where you can access an HIV test. And in addition to that, there are several outreach activities where some of the RHAs bring HIV testing to communities. In addition to that, there has been onboarding now of self-testing for HIV, which can also be accessed via some health centers. And I know that the Ministry of Health is trying to make some of the self-test kits more widely available to persons who may want to access an HIV self-test kit. Some people, because of stigma though, are still afraid to come forward to be tested for HIV. And we are trying to make it easier. This is where we have onboarded the self-test kit for people who may be having challenges to come forward. We're trying to have the self-test kit be one of those things that makes it easier for people who may have challenges because of stigma, access self-testing. And in addition to which, they're doing a lot of, there's some training that's occurring around stigma and discrimination to be able to help folks from on the other side so that we can reduce the amount of stigma. That is also happening. But the test is available. It's now for us to link the people to the test.
Now, Dr. Sebro, are there any updated information about prevention and treatment care?
So one of the big things that's different at this particular point in time is the concept of U equals U, which is where now once we have somebody on medication for HIV, the transmission of HIV is reduced. So that we say that where somebody is on treatment and a person is on treatment successfully, then we would say undetectable HIV virus equals untransmittable, which means that if we could possibly have everybody who is HIV positive on medication successfully, we would markedly reduce our new cases of HIV in Trinidad and Tobago. So that's one of our things, or one of our goals is to see how many people we can get on medication to be able to ensure that persons can live a long, healthy life, because people don't have to die of AIDS anymore. But we want to be able to also prevent transmission.
That's an important point that I think many people perhaps miss, that as a sexually transmitted disease, HIV and AIDS is not a death sentence anymore. Thank God.
Yes, thank God for medication, yes.
Yes, so the treatment aspect of dealing with somebody who is tested positive for HIV is a critical part of their journey from henceforth. Because I have heard of cases, and you can tell me if we have any cases like this in Trinidad and Tobago, where someone who is HIV positive has been on treatment, and after some years and following that regimen, they can test negative.
So I think I want to just where they can test negative for the virus.
Mm-hmm.
In HIV, we test the body's response to the virus. We test for antibodies.
Yes.
And we check for the virus. So when we are testing to see somebody's HIV positive or HIV negative, we test for the antibodies. So once you've been exposed to HIV, you will test positive. But once somebody's on treatment, we have a test in the treatment site where we actually test for the virus. And so when we're testing for the virus and we're monitoring people on treatment, they will become undetectable by the virus. But if they do an HIV test, they will still test HIV positive. But we will do a test to show that the virus is controlled.
Now, Dr. Sebro, we have guest hosts with us this morning, and Senior Superintendent Roger Alexander would like to ask you a question.
Sure.
Yeah, hi, Doc.
Hi, good morning. Good morning.
Again. Which age group are most at risk in terms of gender, whether it's male or female, and what age group
So
at risk.
right now, so anybody who's sexually active is at risk, and so we would track the what is happening for HIV, and we would go from 0, and we would go all the way up to above 50. So we have new cases in the 0 to 14 age group, 15 to 19, 20 to 24, 25 to 49, and over 50 age group. We have new cases in all of those age groups. Where we have, and you see us saying 0 to 14.
Yes,
We had some concerns, Doc.
Some open drawers and
those persons are born with it, or is it that they were infected?
Well, so here's the thing. For the 0 to 14 age group, we have had massive success in the prevention of mother-to-child transmission. So what we are seeing now is not so much children being born with HIV, but we are seeing young people being infected with HIV, more so in those teen years. And that is a combination of things, some of it via their own risk, and some of it also via some of the things that lead us to, some of the things around sexual assault that we need to pay some attention to. So where we have issues for both the 0 to 14 and the 15 to 19 age group, we have to pay attention in terms of how we communicate and teach our children about their sexual and reproductive health, as well as how we protect our children and safeguard our children from sexual assault.
Yes.
Now, if you're just joining us, you're listening to Dependency, and we have on the phone Dr. Ayanna Sebro and Ms. Nicole Hendrickson. And in studio with us, we have Senior Superintendent Roger Alexander, and coming in via Zoom is Mr. Marlan Hopkinson. We will be with them in a few minutes. We just closing off some gender-based violence. So with the 16 days against gender-based violence, I've called World AIDS Day with Dr. Sebro and Ms. Hendrickson. Now, how are these two linked, ma'am? HIV and gender-based violence?
So, as it relates to HIV and gender-based violence, you notice we are within the 16 days of activism. Gender-based violence can affect power dynamics in a relationship. It can affect how persons stand up for themselves in instances, for example, from sexual and reproductive health, the ability to say no, the ability to ask for use of barrier protection or support conversations around healthy interactions in sexual and reproductive health, as well as the ability to move freely. One of the big things that we have been trying to champion in the GBV space from the HIV perspective is the link to post-exposure prophylaxis to people who are sexually assaulted. So where people are sexually assaulted, there is medication or medical intervention available to reduce risk in terms of the transmission of HIV, and other STDs. But people have to present within 72 hours to the medical system. They can be linked via the police. They can be linked as well directly to the medical system. But this intervention is available in Trinidad and Tobago to help decrease the risk of transmission of sexually transmitted infection in the context of sexual assault. So that's some of the ways that HIV would affect gender-based violence. And for people who are HIV positive who experience gender-based violence, it also affects how people access therapy.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So
before you go into the next question, we had a conversation yesterday, and Garth was quite alarmed to hear this.
But I would like to leave that one for last because I want the senior SSupt and
Okay.
Marlan to hear this too. So
Okay.
let's keep going. I think this.
Police, right?
Yeah, no.
Well,
this,
yes and no. That's
but
the law.
so Nicole Hendrickson is also with us too.
Yes.
And Doc, you going to tell us about PEP, or Nicole will tell us about that?
I think we can both tell you about it.
All right, could you go first then, Doc?
All right, so I would say that post-exposure prophylaxis, or some people will refer to it as the medical management of sexual assault. But post-exposure prophylaxis to HIV is available as a component of the medical management of sexual assault. It is available through the facilities of the Ministry of Health. it must be accessed within 72 hours. And the medication is normally given for 1 month, and testing for HIV and STDs will continue over a 6-month period, right? Where some of this, where, for example, people are sexually assaulted and they present, for example, to the police, the management is 3-part: access to, the police system, where the police can act as well and link persons directly to the medical system after they do their piece. The medical system can also link back to the police system. But people can access treatment. Treatment is important in that first 72 hours, and it helps prevent persons from accessing STDs or STIs, sexually transmitted infections, where the person is not already infected with a sexually transmitted infection.
Okay. Ms. Hendrickson?
Hi, good day. Sorry, I didn't hear the question. Could you repeat it for me?
Yes, no, about PEP, post-exposure
prophylaxis.
Yeah, so that has definitely changed the game in terms of sexual assault. And so from a gender-based violence perspective, it has ensured that, I didn't hear everything that Dr. Sebro said, so I'm not repeating, but probably talking from a different perspective, ensuring that persons who may have been sexually assaulted and no protection was used, because some unfortunate persons are pretty conscientious from time to time and may use a condom, but for those who don't, or even if the condom may have burst, slipped, ripped, whatever, and body fluids may have been shared, they then have some form of comfort, if I may call it that, and I know that is relative for a lot of people, that HIV may not be passed on from person to person if it was present in the situation. So persons do have that caveat, if I can call it that, around sexual assault. And also, too, just in terms of peace of mind. So it is the HIV medication, and the persons may be concerned about what they may have heard about HIV medication, but over the years, thankfully, if HIV medication has changed, it is not as impactful as it used to be. And we have heard of persons who would not have contracted the virus through the PEP method. And so those are things that we look forward to and recognize that the protocols that exist both here and internationally around the GBV. And we have something called the referral pathway that is a part of it as well.
So how does GBV affect treatment of HIV/AIDS?
GBV affects treatment because if we really look at what gender-based violence is, and it's really just violence based on person's gender. So for women, it could be physical violence, and the whole spectrum: physical, emotional, psychological, even economic, and we sometimes forget the economic piece of it. And it's of course no respect of person from the economically challenged to those who have the wherewithal to do what they want and choose what they want. But what we need to understand is gender-based violence is about power. I don't want to miss gender-based violence around men is gang violence, and we sometimes make decisions to not talk about that. But that's a slightly different thing. But it is still about power. It's about somebody making the decision that I want to have power over you, and they make the determination about how to do that. So if, for example, when we talk about HIV transmission, a woman or anyone in a situation, it doesn't always have to be the woman, but in terms of making the determination, I want to have sex with you now, irrelevant of what you're doing. You could be cooking, you could be reading, you could be studying, you could be anything. I want to have sex with you now, I will have sex with you. You do not get to determine if it's safer sex, if it's sex that the person likes, or a whole host of things. And because the person doesn't have any power to say, this is what I want or this is what I prefer, that is the instance in where the GBV may take place. And also, too, in terms of persons maybe hiding. So if you're in a situation like that, of course, if by chance the person who is doing the power dynamic or instilling the power dynamic doesn't know by chance that they're HIV positive, and then infects with their partner, And by chance, just maybe based off of a routine checkup, you go to the doctor, they ask, do you want to do an HIV test? The person's like, maybe, to check, and then turn out to be HIV positive. How are you telling a partner where you can't even decide what happens to your body that you're HIV positive? Do they get to go check? Do you then get to say, well, I'm on medication, you need to be on medication too? So if we notice the whole power differential within that space is not equal.
Now, Dr. Sebro, what are some of the technological local examples of technological HIV?
So where people experience technological gender-based violence, some of the local examples would be there was a case where, for example, two persons, somebody, for example, knew their HIV status, and another person decided that they wanted to share the person's HIV status on social media. And so you had that, and you had within the dynamics of the relationship, and so that person now experienced a significant amount of stigma and discrimination, because here you had somebody on Instagram, on social media, Facebook, sharing about somebody's HIV status. And there are other instances within the HIV negative community as well, where people would experience technological gender-based violence that would then disempower them and also put them at risk of other things. I'm going to ask Nicole to share some of the other examples as well in terms of the technological GBV.
Yeah, Ms. Hendrickson.
Yeah, so in terms of our local examples, and like I tell people when I do my presentations, Shanice just loves to be in everything.
Yes.
So we did have a couple of years ago that very famous Lyndall Simmons case, Lyndall Simmons versus Teresa case, where the cricketer would have taken photos to his own admission that he took the photos as insurance because he knew the relationship was going to go south. And he shared the intimate photos without her permission. And what we no longer use the term revenge porn. We use the term the non-consensual sharing of intimate images. Because revenge porn it doesn't always have to be porn. Porn is a specific thing. These are pictures that are taken by two people who are sharing their bodies, and software may have happened. And because these photos may have been taken at a particular point in time, they are encapsulated within that time frame. Once the person then makes the decision to share those photos that are taken there and share it somewhere else, especially without the explicit consent of this person, that is now a violation because they didn't give you consent to do it. Sometimes they didn't even give you consent to take the photos, because what we also recognize is some people are now filming their sexual expertise and having photos and things like that. So the non-consensual intimate sharing of photos is one of the major ones that happens, and we've had instances where persons may have come forward and found out that without their consent they've been photographed or filmed. So that case was a landmark case in Trinidad and Tobago, where Justice Prasad did make the decision that he was going to go to other jurisdictions to ensure that this was taken care of, and hopefully not. What we are recognizing is that there are other persons coming forward saying that this has happened, and we are a little concerned that the cybercrime and social media unit of the CTPS is saying that their hands are tied. I know that the legislation is a little behind where we need to be, but we're hoping that with some support that we could move forward. But just some other examples are things like what we call DOS, which is the denial of services. So people who are online are denied services based on a whole host of reasons, what it looks like, what it will look like, finances, and a whole host of things. The other thing is doxing, which is what a lot of people know, which is the hacking of your information. It's slightly different from fishing, which is what we most of us know from before. But it's like, taking your limited, your full name and stuff like that. We actually haven't had a really good example of dropping the game. Please love to not be left out. With the whole Nicki Minaj fiasco, with the Soul Festival cousin scene, where a local journalist made the determination that they wanted to get in front of the story before international journalists. And Nicki Minaj found out, and she shared the personal details of a local journalist and had international people threaten our local journalist. Now, yes, Nicki Minaj is quote-unquote same-sex as this person is that in that it's two females. But because of who would have then targeted the journalist, mostly, of course, men, and we know that Nicki Minaj has a huge fan base, would have targeted this journalist and threatened the journalist, and I'm thinking it also included murder. So we need to be very careful, and a lot of people believe that once they're armchair defenders, that they can't be traced, and that is not true. They could be. It could take a little while to trace you, but for the most part, if you have proper devices and technology, you can be traced. So nobody is untouchable per se. It just may be depending on where you are. It may just take you longer. So other examples of
Before you go on, Nikki, could as we on some of the safeguards against potential harm of this kind of act, especially when it comes to minors. Could you talk about that?
Safeguards as it comes to minors, right? So, to me, one of the simple safeguards is I don't think very young children should have smartphones. This is my personal. I understand in the space in which we live in that parents, guardians, or anybody who's overseeing young children in particular, because I want to kind of work up the spectrum if I have time, that they should not have smartphones. And I understand that things happen, and you need to call. The old days used to be you're going to the principal's office and you call your parents. Yes, you want to give some children autonomy very early, so you give them a phone. I don't believe smartphones are for younger children. Okay, so we move up the ladder. You enter into secondary school. You're given a little more responsibility. There are checks. There are checks and balances that can. Parental guides that parents can put on their phones to the children. Another thing too, we can't just give children devices and let them have it endlessly for the evening. I get that, yes, we as adults want to decompress, and yes, the young people want to decompress too. They want to watch what they want. They want to watch their cartoons. They want to watch their videos and stuff like that. But we cannot give young people carte blanche freedom without, one, having the conversation about this is a device that I am giving you for this specific purpose, for your safety, for your entertainment, for a whole host of reasons. But other people may also use the device to cause you harm. And when this happens and that somebody you don't know contacts you, somebody who purports that they're asking you for things that you know for a fact that you're not supposed to be sharing. Those are the things that you need to tell an adult immediately. And parents, I want to implore you, please, I know how hard it could be sometimes, but try to keep your cool, because that split second they come to you with that device and say, I think something is wrong here, will then guide what happens after that intervention, in that they come back to you if something happens again, or they hide.
No, Dr. Sebro. Oh, sorry.
If I just may finish this point out. Unfortunately, we have parents that just flip out, and we really need you all to keep an even peace. Even if you want to count to 10 and just deal with the instance and find somebody to scream at later because you can't believe somebody tried to contact your underage person. But you have to be very careful how you treat that intervention, that first intervention.
Now, Dr. Sebro, what can we look forward to from the NACC in the future?
So for the NACC, you're going to see more. So from the community side, you're going to see some community projects to be able to help and augment some of the sensitization for groups where we may have some gaps. That will be one of the things that you'll see in the future. You will also see, for example, greater awareness for the HIV helpline, because we have a HIV helpline that we have in existence at this time that people have been accessing, but we want to see more people being able to access the helpline. And so the helpline does some outreach from time to time to make more groups aware, especially the youth groups. You will see some of that. And more so NGO support for NGO outreach. Those things are the things you will see, in addition to which the mobilization around what is in this HIV policy that we have, that we will launch pretty soon. You will begin to see us engaging, so different ministries coming forward to do different things, different set of work in the HIV arena, because now we are saying we need for you to play a role here, because we see a gap in the response that we need for you to come forward with. So HIV is not just for the MOA, Ministry of Health, but also national security, gender, child, children's authority, equal opportunity. There are so many different components of the HIV response, and we really need for us to all step up to have a whole of society approach for us to get to our target to end AIDS by 2030 as a public health threat.
Now, Dr. Sebro and Ms. Hendrickson, as we go, we have more time to spend with you all, lots of time to spend with you all going forward, and we want to keep this topic alive. Now, Marlan and Senior Soap, before we wrap up, do you know that there's a policy, but there's no law that if someone know that they're infected, they can sleep with someone without fear of legal consequences?
I don't agree.
Marlan, you know that?
No, I don't agree with that. I don't agree.
Well, I wasn't aware.
Yeah, and I was shocked yesterday when Natasha and I had this conversation.
No, I think you need to review that, because they are offenses against the Persons Act.
Yes.
Right, Dr. Sebro, you heard that?
Along that line.
No, there is the Offenses Against the Persons Act.
Right.
Yeah, so there will be no specific law, Mr. Sinclair, because we wouldn't do a specific law to talk about transmission of HIV itself, because that law is stigmatizing. So we wouldn't want to stigmatize a specific disease in a law. But in terms of the Offenses Against the Persons Act, where, for example, somebody has concerns, it can be pursued under that particular law that we have.
I think it's causing grievous bodily harm by causing grievous bodily harm, somewhere along the line where you know that and you still went out and did it.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's
so that law could be applied to this.
The law could be applied. So what the country has refrained from doing is making laws that would stigmatize against HIV, because we wouldn't want to create a scenario where we're specifically targeting persons with a specific disease.
Correct.
And so there are other laws that the country uses to be able to support, redress in particular instances, but also the approach of the country from a coordination aspect is also to increase the amount of HIV prevention available, as well as to encourage people to be able to have conversations around their status in the context of a consensual relationship, and to have some of those things available.
All right.
So we have a wider approach, yes.
Yeah.
Any closing remarks from you, Ms. Hendrickson?
Just in terms of safeguards, parents talk to your children. People talk to each other and find out more about the technology facilitated gender-based violence. And we should, and also to the cybercrime and social media unit, I think, could do a little more in educating the public on technology facilitated GBV. And the last piece in that I want to say a shout out to my daughter in Toronto who's listening. Thanks.
Dr. Sebro?
So the last thing I would want to encourage people who are HIV positive, who may be afraid to come forward for treatment, to come forward and to say that the response is here to provide you with free treatment. Treatment is free in Trinidad and Tobago. You can come forward. We will treat you and support you getting to that undetectable status. And also to say to anyone who may have interest in terms of the post-exposure prophylaxis or any other questions about HIV, I encourage you to call the HIV helpline, 800-4448 or 800-4HIV. And the active listeners would be happy to answer any questions you would have. If you are positive or you want to get a test and you're afraid as well, the active listeners on the HIV helpline can link you to an HIV navigator, and the navigators will actually meet you and take you to the services of the state. Thank you so much, Mrs. Sinclair.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ayanna Sebro and Ms. Nicole Hendrickson, on behalf of the crew here in studio. And we'd like to wish you all the best for the new year, for Christmas and the coming year. And of course, we want to say farewell, or so long, not farewell, to your permanent secretary, Mr. Ganga Prasad Singh, who is making his way out, and we have a nice little tribute for him next Sunday, please God. So we want to thank you very much for your time, ladies, and be well, and we will keep in touch.
Okay, thank you for having us again. Have a great holiday season.
Thanks for the information, man.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
You're welcome. Bye-bye. All right, folks, so that was Dr. Ayanna Sebro and Ms. Nicole Hendrickson. And we go to a quick break, and when we return, we have the men of the moment. We have Marlan Hopkinson sitting with us and Senior Superintendent Roger Alexander here in studio with us.
Can't sit.
And
not well. I should be.
so you hear what these gentlemen are up to. See that they continue to do their work out of the eyes of the public, as they have been doing for the past few years together. And we're going to put them to the test this morning with a thesis from the mighty Sparrow. When we come back, we talk about that and let them bounce off their discussion on that. Yes, Marlan?
All right. Sounds good.
All right. So Marlan is there holding on. I wonder how, Marlan, you see when you have guests coming on at morning edition and they're waiting in the line to come on. Yeah. So you're getting a taste of that this morning. Hey, it's nice to have you gentlemen here. So let's go a quick break, short man, and let's come back with Roger Alexander and Marlan Hopkinson.
Yes, girl. I'm here with this weirdo named Larry. I'm getting rid of him now. Let's take a selfie. It looking good, boy. I putting it online.
Hey, I thought you say you went to the beach with your parents.
Who's you?
It's me, Larry, from online.
In 2014, the Joint United Nations Program on HIV and AIDS, more commonly known as the UN AIDS Organization, released a report titled Fast Track, Ending the AIDS Epidemic by 2030. It's centered around people living with HIV, reducing new infections to only 500,000, and ending stigma and discrimination. This strategy also sought to ensure that by 2020, 90% of people living with HIV knew their HIV status, were receiving treatment, and had suppressed viral loads. In Trinidad and Tobago, as we look back on 2020, there has been much success. And although we may not have realized the full scope of 90-90-90, we are well on our way. In an effort to plot the future course of action, a set of interim targets were developed for 2025 that need to be achieved to reach the 2030 HIV targets within the Sustainable Development Goals. As with 90-90-90, 95-95-95 refers to the pathway by which a person is tested, retained in HIV care, and initiates and adheres to antiretroviral drugs or ARVs. It also brings into play other interlinked areas called the 10s, which take into consideration enabling environments and policies that continue to practice discrimination, and the 90s, which speak to access and enrollment in contact-specific integrated services. It's become clear that the next few years are critical to the fight to eradicate HIV and AIDS as a public health threat by 2030. Each nation, individual and organization must do their part to realize this goal.
Do you want to support our work at Eye on Dependency? Here are 3 ways to do so. You can make a donation to the Eye on Dependency account at Republic Bank. You can follow the Eye on Dependency page on Facebook. You can subscribe to the Eye on Dependency channel on YouTube. Liking, commenting, and sharing the live on a Sunday also helps. Thanks in advance for your support.
Jesus. Thank you for staying with us, folks. Oh God. Yeah, this is why you see that some conversation.
Marlan, you want to come inside here, sound boy?
Marlan?
I might have to top of the screw.
Marlan Hopkinson, compliments of the season to you, sir.
And to you too, and to everybody who's listening this morning.
Yes, Marlan. So, I mean, how you on vacation now because of falling ill? So, who's running Morning Edition now? I haven't tuned in for quite a while. What's going on there?
Well, I am there. If you tune in tomorrow morning, yes,
I will see you.
I'm going to be there. Yeah. Okay. I'm just battling with the flu right now, but I think that by the end of today, that should be long gone. So I'll be out tomorrow morning.
But Marlan, so Senior Soup, you know, Marlan, I want to tell people about Marlan Hopkinson. Marlan Hopkinson started here at I-95.5 FM. Cub reporter, as they call it. And, you know, now, he younger than we, eh?
No.
Yeah. So you tell, right, you see? Now, when I tell him send the bio, he tell me, boy, we don't need no bio, boy. Take it. So correct me now.
All right, so my career started 20-something years ago at Power 102, and at that time, yes, I was a cub reporter.
Right.
And of course, things went awry, and then I-95.5 FM would have been for. But by the time I was at the stage of Power 102, I think when Power 102 was started, and yes, you're right, cub reporter, but I think maybe 2 or 3 years later, I was the deputy head of news. So when I came over to I-95, I was already deputy head of news.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So we start off like us, God.
Yeah.
We started off at that frequency as well.
Yeah.
If you recall.
But okay. Marlan, remember, no, see, you know, you must know that smile Marlan had, right? When he trying to make you feel you're dumb, right? But but he's so good at it.
Yeah.
I remember I started operating the board at I-95, and you talk about, it was like, for me, it was like flying a plane for the first time. So when Marlan comes to do the news now, when Marlan time to play Marlan news clip, I click in the wrong thing. And I would document coming up instead of the song bites. Marlan watch me with this kind of smile on his face. Marlan, remember that? And Marlan, I used to say in my mind, Marlan, shut up with that smile now, you know I do it stupid.
I remember.
But he was so gracious about it, you know. He never really showed me any to make me more nervous. But Marlan, I want to thank you for that because, you know, it was, although I know the smile meant differently, but at least you were patient with me. And I want to thank you very, very much for that.
I hear you.
So how is Senior Soup coming here? So how is when are we going to see Beyond the Tape again with you two? Tell me. Senior Soup, you jump in here.
Let me say this. Marlan and I, we went through some years. You know, Marlan, and I'll be honest with you, Marlan would have taught me everything I know about media and radio. Because I came a layman with no knowledge at all about media.
Right.
I do a little course and things through the police service, but that was it. Marlan would have taught me a lot of things. The whole understanding of the game.
Yeah.
And we did our part, you know, and if we were to do it again, yeah, probably we will, you know, because the program was necessary and is still necessary, especially when you're trying to really bridge that gap, that expanding gap as we speak. As the gap continues to expand and the public trust and confidence seems to be eroding slowly or sometimes very quick, you need that type of program to try to fix it back. You bridge that gap. You pave the road for that smooth transition from communication between members of the public and the police. And if that is not happening, well, hey, when Marlan ready, you know, we might have some decisions to make, but when we make it, you know, we can go back and do our thing, you know, so.
Marlan, how did it feel being in that role apart from your journalistic career? How did it feel for you hosting a program such as Beyond the Tape?
I think that I don't think that it was really a challenge, you know. I think that as well, of course, I already had experience in media, but I think that as a citizen, I do have concerns as to how the affairs of the country is run, and I think that I had many views as it relates to the crime situation. I still do have those views. And I think that expressing those views became very natural because it was not, and Alexander will tell you, nothing was ever scripted on that program. And all we did was speak about how we felt. And let me just say, Alexander, and to everybody else, that we must give some level of kudos to former police commissioner Stephen Williams, former commissioner Gary Griffith, and also
Mr. McDonald Jacob.
Mr. Jacob, right? So we must also give commendation to them because they gave massive support to the program. They gave guidance, they gave resources, they gave access, they gave everything that was possible, understanding that silence is not strength, and that when people are traumatized, when people are going through major problems, there is a benefit in those whose responsibility are to speak and are to give comfort. Citizens want to hear from them, and it is of benefit to no one if there is the perception that silence is strength or that you are running away from a situation. And I've said that publicly over the years.
Marlan, do you think that Beyond the Tape has contributed to, one, a greater level of trust in the police service across the board, and two, a better marrying of the power of the media and eradication of crime?
I think that that Beyond the Tape, I think that it has been used as a connecting sort of mechanism between media, between police, between understanding how the police operate, very much so as it relates to trust and confidence. And Alexander will know, and if you ask Mrs. Archie, who's the head of the communications unit at the TTPS, she would tell you that her dissertation was done on Beyond the Tape and the benefits of Beyond the Tape and what the impact was. You know? So, Alexander, how many years we would have done it? 9 years?
9 years. 9 years.
Yeah. So it was a major tool in bridging that gap between the citizenry, the police, and even the media, and a major contributing tool as it relates to trust and confidence.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah. Without a doubt, members of the public would have gravitated towards Beyond the Tape, because when something happens, or even before something happens, we are there on an evening. And as Marlan said, people looking for someone to hold on to, for comfort. And when something happens and you could come on a program and say, listen, the police is addressing this way, and you see. It's not just talk, you see what we are saying is coming to pass. Then you have to accept what is going on here. Like, take for instance, I often couldn't understand sometimes if persons get murdered in a particular area, and Marlan and I would have discussed this. If I'm holding the mantle, I want to go to that location and have a conversation with members of the public there and then.
right.
Because I want the public to know, listen, this is not going to continue. But then let us not just talk about it. Let's be about it. Do something about it. Don't just talk. The talk does sound good. I just, caress the mind more or less. But let's do something about it. What we intend to do. Are we going to sit by and watch things continue? Are we going to sit by and watch 6 turn into 7? Are we going to sit by and watch 7 turn to 8? Are we going to sit by and watch 8 turn to 9? Or are we going to wait for that day or that year when we sit by and watch 9 turn to 10? What are we doing?
I appreciate those both responses. I am still wary though, Marlan, as you might expect as you're a media worker, of the sensationalization of crime via the media. Do you think Beyond the Tape may have contributed to that as well? Because we all know that if it bleeds, it leads, right? How does that impact on the quality of crime reporting and the over-sensationalization of crime in this country?
Let me just, I've never said this before, but you see that argument by media sensationalizing what is happening as it relates to crime in Trinidad and Tobago? That is the argument for the weak. Let me repeat that. That is the argument for the weak
and the frail,
right? Right? Because here's what. It is not that the media, members of the media, they are making that up, I remember one of our greatest businessmen in Trinidad and Tobago. He has not long passed. He died earlier this year, and he came up with a suggestion about 20-something years ago. The suggestion was, let's take crime off of the front page and put it on the back page. Yeah. My argument has always been, if we put it on the back page, if we put it in the middle page, it doesn't change the fact that a crime has occurred.
And people are going to look for it?
So my position is those whose responsibility is to deal with crime, then put mechanisms in place to deal with it. Don't look at the media. Let me just add something else, Natasha. That, you see, in Trinidad and Tobago, unless, as we say in local parlance, unless we light up people in this country, there's a lot of snoring going on at a lot of organizations in Trinidad and Tobago, So, again, that argument of sensationalizing over sensationalizing, that's a non-issue, I think. I think that the bigger issue is, how do we deal with 600 murders for the year, 500 murders for the year? That is the issue, not about what the media is putting out there.
Let me also say this, Marlan. I wouldn't agree with the word that you used, though. But what I can tell you, bringing awareness to members of the public is what it is. It's what's really taking place there. Because let's take, for instance. Okay. Because what happens if something is happening in a particular community, and we highlight it, and we didn't just highlight it, we also ask members of the public or tell them what to look forward to, what to look out for, what to look forward to from the law enforcement, what they need to do, when they need to do it, and all these things, then we would have achieved our goal. So it's not it's about more awareness than anything else. You know, there's some persons in Trinidad and Tobago who don't watch the news,
Yes.
don't read the newspaper. No, crime is bad. So I don't want to hear. But you don't want to hear. But your neighbor right next door, firing off his AR-15 every night. But you don't want to hear that because you know why? You're living in a bubble. One of these days, the ricochet will come to your roof and hurt somebody by you, and then that's when you decide to come out. So let us.
That's a reasonable.
Yeah,
that's
let
a
us.
reasonable argument.
It's not just sensational.
Alexander,
It's about
let me
bringing
just
awareness.
ask this thing.
Tell me.
What is the greater? Just getting back to the example that Alexander gave with your neighbor with his rifle shooting into the air. Is that the greater risk, or is that the greater concern, or is the greater risk and concern the media giving exposure to that?
Well, the greater risk obviously is the person who's doing the crime, but I just feel I accept the argument that you both have put forward, but I feel as if, because it's something that Garth and I have talked about as well, about community, living in community, as you bring up the issue with the neighbor. How many persons will be willing to A, call the police for the neighbor, B, speak to the neighbor about his behavior, or watch it be on the tape or on any media news outlet and say, yeah, they're coming for him. No, and yeah, rubbing your hands. Yeah, they go for him. And in the event that nothing happens to the individual, the citizen is left in fear. I feel like the as I call it, the sensationalization creates a culture of fear in citizens who may be living in a bubble, as you say, don't want to be exposed to that kind of, death and darkness and evil. And for me, I mean, I don't like to watch the news because watching the news is like, watching what the police go through every day. I don't want to see that.
How do you become aware of your surroundings and these things?
But of course, yes, you need to be.
If you do not engage these situations in a certain way, because take for instance, let us go down Frederick Street, Port of Spain. You have on your 2 big gold chain.
Yeah.
Because you came from some part of probably south and you wasn't watching news and you're not aware, so you walk down Charlotte Street and then you bend over to George Street and then some men hold you and scuffle you. And then you know what the public would say? But like she didn't hear what?
But I mean, that is common sense. You'd have to watch the news to know that you shouldn't display,
Right, well then take it in that same context. If you park your car a certain place, it have a history of persons breaking and stealing your cars. So we show you that, so just don't do it.
Right.
Yeah?
Yeah,
it is better to know than not know.
Yeah, it
agreed,
is better.
Agreed.
No.
Right, so we win you over.
I don't want to live in fear, though. I don't want to live in fear that, the place is crime-ridden and
let me just say this
house.
to the lady. Ma'am, it's not about living in fear no more, Every day is about survival in Trinidad and Tobago. Because if you had a big gunman outside willing to come out and tune up on a road and central and thing and fire even at the police, then you're looking at survival. Because you could be going on your merry little way, singing Christmas songs and all of these things, and then bow! You get a shot from a gun that was intended for a bullet that was intended for someone else, but it strikes you. So it's about survival. Every day is about survival in Trinidad and Tobago. When you have 600, we are talking about survival. It's not like, well, I don't care what's going on and you want to do this. Partner, survival.
That's a horrible way to live, though.
But
I would like to create a society where we don't have to live in fear and live in survival.
Well, it brings me to the point now and brings me to the time when Marlan and Senior Soup, Marlan, Shortman is saying if you could turn on your speaker a bit, it's a little loud, or we're getting a little feedback when we speak, or if he has a headset, let him use it, please.
Marlan?
No, yeah, Shortman.
All right, I'm lowering down the volume.
Yeah.
All right.
Now,
is that better?
Yes, much better. Excellent. Now, we're going to show you, Marlan, Senior Soup, and those of you just joining us, you're listening to Dependency. I've been waiting for us to do this for quite a while. And we have two of the best people, the best minds in our country to help us dissect this thesis from Sparrow. This was done in 1995.
Yes.
Right? Now, you would swear that Wiz for the Veins and Sparrow looked in a crystal ball and see what we're going to be discussing here this morning. It is amazing.
Because you're still in the same place, eh?
Well, listen to me. So, short man, when you get an opportunity, let's play that appearance, and you're going to see those of you who want to see Sparrow who didn't never saw it before, doing a song title called a Kaiso title called Madness. Listen to every single line in this thesis, and when we return, we'll have Marlan and the senior SSupt dissect it for us. And of course, we'll take your calls, because I know you would not forgive us this morning if we didn't get to speak to Marlan and senior SSupt. Because I've seen a lot of messages from you all, and thank you very much for joining us on Facebook and YouTube.
Please like the live. There are 129 people watching on YouTube, and we have 7 likes. What is that? Come on, please. When you jump in the live, you could do it right now. It's free. Press the like button, and same with Facebook. Please.
Because you'll be trying to have YouTube catch up with Facebook, so on our
like
Facebook page. So
it's free.
All right, so Shortman, let's go play that video with Sparrow on this Dimanche Grand night. And I know Marlan, you love Sparrow, right?
Absolutely.
Senior SSupt?
Wait.
Yeah.
Sparrows made me do certain things, and I'm going.
But he's back, and listen to it. Try not to be distracted by the sweet music of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Band. Try not to be distracted by that sweet music of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Orchestra playing that night on the Dimanche final. Yes. I couldn't even believe Sparrow came to this competition. But let's go to Sparrow doing Madness. Let's take a look, take a listen. Morning to you, sir. Let's go, Shortman.
Madness.
As like I said, turn up your volume and listen to every single line in this calypso. It's very worthy. Don't miss it.
others they're proud and profane. This is my race. This is my race. This is my race.
You have been listening to the Mighty Sparrow as he appeared on stage at the March Grand Night 1995 with a very prophetic song, very prophetic kaiso, backed by the Trinidad and Tobago Police Orchestra, best band in the world. Listen to that music. Give them a little bit going out here. Listen to me. Whoa, Marlan Hopkinson.
Yeah, I'm here.
Let's start with you first, my friend, because the last part of line.
I will adjust that.
Yes, I want Senior SSupt to address that part where he said the protective force is no example to us.
Yeah.
But Marlan, let's hear your take on what we just heard.
All right. So listen to. Will you also accuse Sparrow of sensationalizing crime? You said that.
Of course
you
not.
that in
Absolutely not.
1995. I saw that. Let me tell you, every night, every carnival Sunday night, I would sit down with my family and look at the March Gras.
Yes.
And it is only today that I have realized how profound that song is and the message in that song. But here's what, while I was listening to the song, I was taking some notes from Sparrow. Here's what Sparrow said. I didn't say that. Living in a state of undeclared war, you know. That's what Sparrow said in 1995.
Yes.
And maybe if those in authority had listened to the message as to what was contained in this song, maybe we would be living in a different Trinidad and Tobago today. He said, tell me what is wrong in my country. And he also spoke about a line there. I don't know who he was referring to, but he says, it don't make sense to air your dirty linen in public. So
But then he
Sparrow
went on to
has
say, but tell me where to hide it then.
Yeah, tell me where to hide it.
Yes. I wrote down that line too.
right? So he has summed it up very, very well, you know. Very, very well.
If it don't make sense to wash your dirty linen in public, tell me where to hide it.
Yeah. Right?
You know,
But I think he's also, I don't think he's sensationalizing Marlan, because if you notice the first verse, he talked about love your mother and father and love thy neighbor, right? Respect your mother and father
Right.
and love thy neighbor. So that indicates to me that he's talking about a sense of community that we have lost, which is resulting in people going
Yes.
astray. And to that point, I will add my own personal feelings about that. And the police is not going to save us. We have to save ourselves. Our sense of community and responsibility to each other is what is going to save us. That's my view. And the other thing I have an issue with this song is that line about poor and polite. I don't like to hear that. Because poor and polite to me indicates that it have a certain group of people who, if you're poor, you're supposed to humble yourself and just keep quiet and not address any of the issues that you have with your life. So I don't agree with this poor and polite foolishness. But everything else about the song, I agree with. That's just me.
Yeah, well, let me adjust. Let me hear what he said. He made a statement there that seems to fit like perfectly in the buildings of the protective services. Because he said that what
the protective force is no example to us.
Example to us.
Yeah.
Now, we must not shy away at all that we have issues. And normally I would say we have issues just like everybody else, but let us stop looking at everybody else. The police service has issues, yes. Those issues are being dealt with by us. And when I say us, we are one of the few organizations that you know that you don't just move a person from one point to another. Most of the times, it's not all the time, you'll see persons attending court for what they would have done. I don't see it much other places, so we're not going down that particular road. But I will tell you this. It's times like this when the integrity of every individual must shine. And The police service never assists persons with integrity. You assist the police service with your integrity. We brought integrity into the police service. That wasn't taught to us in the police service. So you leave home, you left home to join the police service, bringing integrity to the police service. You see? So when you see things happening sometimes from different individuals, you have to ask yourself this question. From whence they came? Who brought them up? What type of investigations was done into them? And then we reach to the stage and no excuses at all for what persons are doing. You see persons involved in a lot of craziness. The police service and its management team, I'll call them that, must find ways to motivate its officers. A police officer must go back to the days when he must police, whether physically or mentally, 365 days a year. And once you could get that up and running, there's no mistake to be made.
In and out of uniform.
In and out of uniform. He lives with that all his life. Where he knows, listen, he is policing 365 days. And not turn a blind eye for 20,000. Not turn a blind eye for 40,000. Not turn a blind eye for a car or a big gold chain. Once you could remotivate the police officers to reach to that level, you're on your way back to bringing this right back to some semblance of peace.
Marlan?
Yeah, and I've said this over and over, I don't know that this sort of environment that we continue to live in today is something that we should accept or we must become accustomed to. A few weeks ago, some people that I know very, very well, they were coming through East Dry River. The person had just picked up their child and was going home, passing through East Dry River. A vehicle stopped in front of them, and a man emerged with a machine gun and attempted to kill the gentleman who was selling water on the corner. But what happened was that because of the direction that the victim was running in, the gunman had to shoot over the vehicle in which the person was taking their child home. Just imagine that, Natasha. Just imagine that you are going to the market, you're going to the grocery, you're going to buy a roti, you're going to the cinema.
Survival,
and you have to
Marlan,
think
survival.
about who is it in front of you and who is at the side of you. Why we must be living in a country such as that.
I agree. I mean, I've been in circumstances like that before. A shooting happened just before I passed in a car in Four Roads. A shooting happened just before I exited St. Christopher's gas station. They shot somebody in there too. I'm living with it. I understand what you're saying.
But what are the consequences of one just coming out into the roadway and behaving like that?
Yeah.
What are the consequences? That's what you have to ask yourself. And if there are no consequences, then it will continue.
Agreed.
You see? So we are just
we move
accepting
on to
these
the
things.
next one, Alexander. We move on to the next one. That's the consequence.
Yeah.
Oh, this person got shot, killed. All right, so we move on to the next one.
Yeah. We continue to accept these things. When I said on an interview not too long ago that we were Haiti in the waiting. And I was chastised for it, probably by my organization. But you see, sometimes if you do not understand the war you fight or is fighting, then you would not understand the consequences down the road. You first have to understand what this war is about, who is causing the war. You see? To understand, to start to look ahead, to see how you can treat it. Because we are Haiti in the waiting. How often you see now more than ever, There's no hide and seek thing again. Man, bowl outside with the AR-15. And now they have since maneuvered that to such an extent, it has become fully automatic. So we're not looking at no pow, pow, pow. And these things can kill a number of persons, and they are not afraid to shoot it in the public domain. What are the consequences for that? If you have no answer, well then listen, here are the consequences for that. You hear Marlan talking about? You hear the silence?
Yeah.
You heard the silence, Marlan?
Crickets.
This is the consequences for this. Watch.
But Alexander, as you know, this is a badge on society.
Yes.
This is a badge on society, a society of bullies. So how do you deal with badge-ons and bullies in society? You know what people are going to say? Well, you show them love and you tap them on the wrist. And that has been the solution by some people. And I don't know that that has been effective at all. As I said the other morning, and Alexander, we would have discussed it years ago, when the authorities decided to enforce the speed limit. What did you see on the nation's highways and byways? Everybody slowed down and was driving very slowly, right? What happened? What has happened today? Look at what has happened over the past few weeks with people dying on the nation's roadways because they have even lost respect. They have lost respect for everything.
Inclusive of themselves.
Yeah, we see
and that's
some...
because some people feel there are no consequences to their actions.
There aren't any. And all forms of violence that happen in this country not always involve physical violence, but there's violence that is committed by not people running through the streets with an AR-15, but people sitting behind a desk on a phone or with a pen and paper who are committing the same kind of violence.
But they don't see it as violence.
Who's sitting behind a cash register committing the same kind of violence. Who are driving a taxi committing the same kind of violence.
Mr. Tasha, I want to ask you a question. Who have more integrity in your eyes? An attorney at law or a police officer?
I don't think integrity is necessarily ascribed to someone's profession.
All right. So then tell me what it is. This is a professional aspect of things. Tell me. Because I'm going to bring a scenario to you, and you tell me how to treat with it. Tell me. What do you think? An attorney at law and a police?
I can't say because I don't know the individual. I can't say.
You have to know them? So let me ask you this. See, why I ask you this, right? On many occasions, take for instance, let's say, Mr. Sinclair here is an issue. And I'm his attorney, and we discuss all what he would have done.
Right.
Some of them hideous by nature.
Unspeakable.
And say it again, Mr. Marlan. Say it again. Unspeakable.
Unspeakable.
Yes. And you know what? He is going to court to represent you. And he's arguing a point that his client, his instructions, that is what you tell him to say now. That he wasn't do, and he didn't do this, and he did that. And the man who was present here, who would have detained you, I am being questioned by him. This is amazing, right?
Yeah.
He's telling me that, no, it didn't happen so, but I was there. You taking instructions from this man.
But that is
I've been
the,
instructed by my
so
client.
that's what I'm asking sometimes.
that is
right?
what the law is
just asking, so
two sides.
Who has more integrity?
And what do they say about the law?
Yeah,
It's an ass.
Is that what?
It's an ass.
The law is 36.
This is the sixth.
The law is at 36.
This is the system that we as a society have accepted as the way to deal with conflict and to resolve issues, right?
That's amazing.
We've accepted it.
So I love
but we have dealt with.
But can I throw in something here, Tash?
We've dealt with lawyers and police officers who lack integrity.
Good evening. Good morning to all my attorney friends.
No, but and all right. So we reached a stage here now, Marlan, and you would have the apart from which the government's still trying, and there are units in our country. Imagine now we have to, now this is a worldwide thing, we have to set up a counter-trafficking unit. And Marlan, you would have met, we have 2 police officers now at the helm, or former police officers, in Mr. Alan Miguel, who's the director, and Dane Marie Marshall. You're probably familiar with Dane Marie.
Both of them.
Both of them,
I
right.
worked with Mr. Miguel for a number of years at the organized crime and narcotics.
What do you think? Tell me, give me your thoughts on their tenure now and how hard they have it now.
That is no walk in the park.
Telling me?
It is no walk in the park. And Mr. St. Clair, our problems start from my whole analysis of it at the secondary school level. From speaking to persons. Why are we still giving places for all? Understand what I'm saying? You know? Long time when you sat your, what is it, back in the common entrance, right?
Yes.
And you did not pass. You stayed on and probably went on to be one of the best tradesmen in this country came from that level. Most of the times. So hear what I'm saying. But now, Mr. God, you are at 44%. I am at 24, but we're in the same class. I cannot get anything the teacher saying because it's not here. I just disrupting the class. I think we have to change that styling back.
The system. That system.
You can't tell me, you can't put a student that is trying and might make it, because he trying, he pushing forward, he look like he'll make it, and put him with someone who didn't start,
So we have ponies in horse races.
Yeah, but what they did, they cut the ponies' ears.
Again, another system that does not meet the needs of the persons who are going through it. Education, we talk about justice. What are the systems that we have that we accept as normal and work? Well, I mean, we tired, criticize the justice system, the education system, the healthcare system. They all have flaws, and we accept them. Right, but there's a consequence to each of all the things that you're mentioning. There's a consequence to having children who have not passed this dreaded SEA of common entrance exam being placed in a classroom where they cannot learn. What is the point of that?
What is the point? That's no point. And Marlan, you would know this too. Sometimes you go through life thinking that things will change, and you sit there and you wait, and things they're not changing. It remaining the same and getting worse every year. Exactly what is happening now. We wait and hoping that some great miracle will come and things will change.
Correct.
Nothing is changing. It's getting worse by the minute.
Correct.
We continue to feed the snakes even when they are placed in the aquariums. And expect now, when they come out, they will understand what confinement means.
And fall in line.
And fall in line.
Go and get a job and be a responsible citizen.
Marlan Hopkinson, you would have met Mr. Alan Miguel and Dane Marie Marshall at some point. You were interviewed.
I don't think so. I don't think so. God.
Not yet.
That's from the counter trafficking unit. I could remember.
I don't think that I would have met them.
But you're familiar with their work, right? And the work that they
I
are.
say that I am.
The task, well, then we have to familiarize yourself because we're depending on folks like you, Marlan, to keep that unit and its work alive. And if you have not yet, then I strongly suggest that you extend an invitation to the counter trafficking unit to let them know, let the public know how much work they have been doing for this past year. Remember, we've gone to tier 2 now and we're looking at a tier 1 and they're working on that. They have cases in court and all of that. But then we also have vision and mission. Now, can you imagine if we didn't have units like vision and mission and the corner, what state we would have been in? Would have been worse, really. Because you know about vision and mission, of course. Marlan, you there? Susan. Right. If you're just joining us, you're listening to Dependency, folks, and we are having a conversation with the soon-to-be back on the television Beyond the Tape hosts. and I'm putting that out there.
We get into existence.
Yes. Yeah, we're putting it out there because, I'm sure there are people who viewing us and listening to us will agree that you all are missed. And I'm seeing the sentiments being shared here on YouTube, and I'm sure the same happening on Facebook, Natasha, about Beyond the Tape host, Marlan.
Yes,
and
they want them back.
Yes.
Bad.
What I can tell you about Mr. Miguel from working with him, he has no limit that he would not go to the extent to achieve his goal.
Right.
Believe that.
Yes.
Because I worked with him. We did some nights, some days, some hours, and he different. Sometimes, as I told you before, some persons come and hope to achieve integrity in the organization, and some people come with. He also came with integrity, so I think success for him is imminent.
For Mr. Alan Miguel.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. No such a noise about him, but it's nice to see a young police officer at the time who now ascended to deputy director of counter trafficking unit, and they have been doing pretty well. Marlan still frozen?
It would appear so.
Who freeze Marlan? Marlan, the cold froze you. When the cold froze, Marlan keep moving. Marlan is stuck.
Oh Lord.
I think somebody will have to bring him back.
But
bring him back.
Someone asked me recently, I think we lost that knowledge about us being a transshipment point for narcotics. Guns are coming in willy-nilly here. Narcotics passing through willy-nilly here, with the exception of police officers doing a thing. I also saw my colleague in Tobago, Mr. Eli, together with Mr. Sebro in Tobago, did some interceptions. But outside of that, things coming in, and we still have the concept, the members of the public saying that, the police supposed to know. But remember, you are our eyes and ears. And if you see something and you say something and nobody responded, I find you can beat on the police. But if you say something and know and see persons operate on it, then you should shower praises, because this is what we do.
Yes.
All right, so don't sit back like those of the past and say, well, the police supposed to know. We would only know when you tell us sometimes. There are so many things happening at any given time. And let me even go further. You don't need to call the police and say, God Sinclair here. Marlan in his mask have a gun in his mask where he had pretended that he had cold. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
If you think for some reason your call is going to be compromised, if you think so, listen to the words, then you know what I have done before? What person have done to me? They call somebody from Grenada, a foreign line, and I seen it on the phone popping up. Yo, yeah, done. And the person speaking differently and giving me information about something that is happening in Trinidad. And I know, if you check it out, I know what it's about. You could call your family them anyway and send back the information so there's no link to you. So stop making that excuse about, well, the police will tell them, police tell them. Some people speak on their own. You go to a bar, you see they get something up the road there. I call them, I ain't taking that. And then you want to know how they know. If you know.
6223937. Let's take some calls. And we have a very special guest, lady, always welcome on this platform. Good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Does that voice sound familiar?
Yeah, that voice sound familiar.
Marlan, you're back with us, right?
Yeah, I'm here.
Right, so we have a special lady on the line here this morning. Good morning to you, ma'am.
Good morning to you, sir, and let me say pleasant morning to you and Natasha, and your special guest, Marlan and Mr. Alexander.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, it's a pleasure listening. I have been following the program since you all started, and very interesting discussions. And you're hearing the perspective from both sides, from a police and from somebody who is quite experienced in the media as well. And this is where the police service, whilst we sit together to come up with initiatives in crime prevention, and this is the bridge, the Corporate Communications Department of the TTPS, this is the role that we play in ensuring that we sensitize the public, we create awareness on crime prevention, and of course being very transparent as to all the police service is doing to make everyone in Trinidad and Tobago safe. So before I go further, I want to thank both gentlemen there, Marlan, for the role you have played for the years, over 10 years, on Beyond the Tape, and also Mr. Alexander. And we will continue to uphold those principles in communication and media, and ensure that we always try to keep the public abreast of what is happening in the TDPS using all forums that we can, especially through the media. We have the media ambassadors on various media platforms, and we spare no opportunity when we are asked, Marlon, on your program, to, police officers to come and give their perspective or to enlighten the public on how that, because we also, in addition to dealing with law enforcement and enforcing of the crime, we also have to deal with the issue of the fear of crime. And Natasha raised a very good point this morning as to how crime is highlighted in the media. We need to have, in my opinion, we need to have a more balanced approach. Whilst we, sensitize the public, we need to balance it and not sensationalize it too much, because that news sells. But we want safety to sell. We want the persons to be educated on how they can protect themselves. And in spite of the fact that we may throw out information there that, assist persons in being sensitive to these issues, we still see persons, making themselves vulnerable and ignoring. But as police officers, and I say we, I am retired now, but I'm responsible for communication. We still try our best, and we will repeat the story. We will repeat those tips over and over and over again until they listen. I can say that there are several initiatives being employed now in the police service, crime prevention initiatives that we highlight very often. Then there are some who may say that we are not highlighting enough, and I remind persons too that we are a law enforcement organization where whatever we may say publicly can and may be used in a court of law. So we have to be very careful with the information that we put out there. Both gentlemen there, I want to say thank you for the role that you have played in that regard.
Thank you, ma'am.
Ma'am Archie, thank you very much for speaking with us this morning. And I'll just ask you to browse through social media when you finish to see the comments of. Well, I know I've seen you on YouTube.
On YouTube.
But I wouldn't say it on the air, but just go and check.
Let me just say a few things. Gentlemen, lady, is Mrs. Archie still there?
Yes.
She is.
I am still there.
And this is a lady who has contributed a lot to not only the police service, to Beyond the Tape. I'm getting a feedback there. Over the years, and it's a lady that we have great respect for. All right?
Yes.
But let me just say, I just want to touch on 2 points that she would have made. And she's calling for balance, and also, she believes that members of the media, we continue to sensationalize things. I think that members of the media, and Miss Archie can attest to this, I would always be in contact with Mrs. Archie, and I would say to Mrs. Archie, I said, here's what, I want someone to speak. I need this, I need that. And sometimes there is a level of hesitation by the police service to respond. Some police officers are not, they're not media ready. Some of them are not available. And I'm talking about things that are happening. If there's a serious crime that has taken place, and I've said, well, here's what, we need to get somebody from the police service to respond. That is my view. But sometimes the police service has another view. And the other view is, well, here's what, let us respond 2, 3, 4, 5 days later. My view is, whether you give me a response or you don't give me a response, I'm going with my story. So it will give the impression, right, that it is not balanced how it should be. That we are being we're not giving the police service the opportunity to respond, or we should only air that story when the police responds, and that is not the way that we operate in media, right? So you see, sometimes people see things, but they don't know what is happening behind the scenes, and I'm sure Mrs. Archie can speak to that.
I totally agree with you in that regard, Marlan, because of the fact that when the media approaches me approach me with a story, and I would say, and to your media colleagues, that they do give us the opportunity to respond before they run with a story. Sometimes it's very challenging to get the persons who are involved in that particular investigation, to get them at the moment to give a response. So what I do, I will of course respond and and make a holding statement. But the point is, I totally agree with you. The timing of the releases, and you would say corporate communication is responsible for that, to ensure that it is not without effort. And you must see the merit in that statement that you made there, because I am asking for the balanced approach. So, of course, when the incident occurs, you need to let us know in a timely manner, because we have to run with a story. It is already on social media. And that is the greatest challenge. We want the balanced approach, but we want the police to respond in a timely manner. I am still making those efforts, and we can do better in that regard. I will agree.
Agreed. And if I could just add that the social media aspect of news nowadays does not add the context that is required to some of these stories. So I can hear what Marlan is saying about the timeliness of information from the police, but they also have to balance and put the story into context. Yeah.
Totally agree.
Well, let me also tell Ms. Archie, Ms. Archie has been my, is like a mother. Let me tell you, because even on Beyond the Tape and outside of Beyond the Tape, when she called and she said, hey, do this, do that, do this, do that, you know, there's no hesitation, because I believe in learning from experience. Yes. And if you learn from experience, half of the time you will be able to share that experience that you learn from that individual to someone else. You pass it on. Yeah. So when she called, I would respond in that way. Yeah. You know, and I often tell her thanks a lot for all that she would have done. And Miss Archie, Mr. Gart asked me a question, I can't say it on the radio, about something, and I told him, you should have been. That's what I will tell you.
On your own with that.
Miss Archie, thank you so much, my dear, as usual.
Yes, thank you, and I'll listen.
All right, so let's take some calls.
All the best, Marlan, with your cold. I hope you get over it in short time.
Yes.
I'll be back tomorrow morning. I'll be back.
All right, man.
Okay, then. Have a good one.
Okay, thank you, dear. Right, so let's see if we can take 9 calls in 9 minutes. Yes, Marlan.
So, former police commissioner sent a text to me a short while ago.
Okay.
Good morning to that individual.
All
and
right.
I remember calling. There was something happening on the BSUM, and I called that commissioner and I said, "Where are you?" And he said, "I'm in the control room here, and I'm doing this." I said, "Here's what: the people need to see you. You need to get out there, you know." And let me tell you, a few minutes later, a news conference was being called on the BSUM, you know.
Yeah.
I understand that timeliness. So some people don't understand it.
Let's take a call. Hello, good morning.
Good morning to Alexander. Good morning to you, God. Good morning to all of y'all on the program this morning. I want to say, I was listening to Sparrow tune too, and one of the major things that he says that, you know, we could have lime and we could have come out and go anyway. And I just want to say this to Trinidad and Tobago. Why we will put some of the force on the police. I will say that the community is this could make the change. And why I say the community could make the changes, because you see, we always want to put the blame on the police, but we in the community, we could make change, because I am saying that we continue doing the same thing over and over and over and over, and we forget that long ago that the community is just used to take care of the children and the parents. And we move all that blame from the parents and the community to take care. And we see that the problem continue, and we ask ourselves why we reach this way. It's because you have a child, and the child going out and coming back 9 o'clock in the night late, and we ain't doing nothing about it. What you expect will happen if we see something was taking place and we do nothing about it? Because we always believe that these professors in the crime go and they get a study. And I am saying that it has people now that want to go back to the communities and help the communities to make the change. You can't go and pound money in community and feel like go make the change. You can't go and pound everything, things that you do not aware what the community needs to help to make the change. And what I'm saying is that if we do go back to, some of the long time days, and it is what's working. And that's why we had sleep. We were so where we is. But no, we want to go to things that we say, we want to bring in more guns. We want to bring more guns to the police, more cars to the police. What that doing with my mind when I am back against the wall and I can't get a walk because I live in Lavantil, or I can't because I live in Beatom, or I live in Enterprise, or I live in Mobile. Because this is what's going on. People cannot get work when they go to places, and when you're a youth and you want to get a future and some kind of good thing in society, how you will get going when you can't get a work, when you can't do this, when you can't do that. And I am saying that we need to go to the community and help. And the only way we could do that is knowing what is the problem. We can't solve the problem without knowing what is the problem.
Thank you very much, caller. 6223937. Hello, good morning. Hello. Morning, yes.
Yes. Season greetings to each and everyone.
Mr. Paulson, morning.
Everybody. Too many names to call. I want to be short. Now, I want to tell people that I love to listen to this radio station, especially at this hour. And the superintendent, he might just remember the voice. I spoke with him some years ago, and he was very comfortable in answering little questions. If he trouble his mind, he would know who's speaking to him.
I know who's speaking.
And I am saying today that what I am seeing in the media, I ain't have no problem with it. You know what the problem I have? My problem is it has people who is in the parliament today. They have answer to deal with certain things that they did during the period that they occupy a position as an MP in the parliament. To me, something is wrong when they could get so many commendation and opportunity to talk, especially about crime, like if it had no crime during their tenure. Thank you very much for allowing me this contribution. Thank you very much.
3937. Thank you very much for calling, Mr. Bowles-Pitt. Hello, good morning.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
I think I have a bone to pick with Mr. Hopkinson.
Oh, Lord.
Mr. Hopkinson, focus is on the timeliness of the release of news. Okay? I don't have a problem with that because he is competing with social media. I remember there was a time when the most important thing for a journalist was to be accurate and factual. Okay? That was
and
the
to
premise.
be first too.
Well, sometimes to be first, but more importantly, to be accurate and factual.
Yes.
Right? With the advent of social media, what we call traditional news now has to compete with people who come online to make content. Mm-hmm. Right? And so the traditional media, instead of being a haven or a last bastion of the truth, now has to compete with perhaps reporting content or making content. So you get a story, and to be first or to be on time with regards to the news, because now it's an economic issue for the traditional newspaper. You have to get some sort of story out. But the dangers to some sort of story coming out and being taken out of context, we all know how dangerous that is. And that is my problem with the media today.
All right, sir.
Now, you say that you have to compete and it's a matter of survival. I get that. But what happened to truth? What happened to the importance of being factual? And when you get it wrong, are you in the same rush to correct the mistakes that you've made? Or you do so grudgingly or be forced to by the courts? That is the problem, Mr. Hopkinson, that I have with the media today.
All right, partner.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for calling.
We have time for Marlan to respond.
And I know the time, so I'm going to take 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Yes.
This is an argument I had with Alexander years ago.
For years.
When Kobe Bryant died, how long after did the head of police at that time respond? Maybe about half an hour. As to say what are the preliminary details, right? So once you have preliminary details, you say, well, here's what, members of the media, this is what I have, we will update. But you do have a situation in Trinidad and Tobago where certain people in authority feel that they don't have to speak to the media. They don't have to account to you, the citizens out there. And that has been one of the major problems that we have in Trinidad and Tobago. Do you think that I would want people to publish inaccurate information? Not at all. Absolutely not. But I can't give you 5 weeks to respond and a month to respond. And then after that, you're telling me we found nothing. No, we will not do that. Go ahead. Over to you.
Understood.
Right.
Yes,
No, we understand you, Marlan. Understand.
That's
Loud and
entirely
clear.
fair.
Let's take one more. Hello, good morning.
Oh, my word.
Hello?
Good morning, gentlemen. Good morning.
Good morning.
To the St. Clair's.
Morning, sir.
And your esteemed guests.
Morning.
One of the greatest disservice that was done to this country was when the COP was forced to discontinue the program with Marlan and Roger. These two gentlemen, they are conscientious, they are patriotic, and they were doing a good job. And I hope that soon they return, because crimes are from the country, and we need people who are on board, people who are on the street and knows what is going on. So, no respect to Roger and Mr. Hopkins. Good show as usual. Safe trip home.
No, Marlan, can you?
Yes, sir.
Can you and Roger Alexander right now? We would like to have both of you in studio.
Yes, yes.
Right? Having you via Zoom, I want to stare you down in studio.
Not good enough.
It ain't good enough.
You want to look in the eye.
Yes. Yeah. I want that bright smile in I-95. It's a place you're familiar with, so it's nice territory for you.
That's
this
home.
Pardon?
I said that is home.
That is home. That's right.
Correct.
We both grew up here, so it is comfortable territory for you.
You will have to get a glass though. I'll put here, because the conversation sometimes become very violent.
I know. Marlan, can we let our listeners and viewers know that you and Roger will commit to being here with us in studio at some point?
Yeah.
After you get over the flu?
Before the year's out, or?
Before the year is out, or early in the new year?
Yeah, that may be kind of iffy.
Marlan, stop playing, you know.
But
Stop playing, you know. We are talking about early in the new year. Come, we want you all, because
that may be a better choice. Yeah.
Right. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So we'll work it out, because it's obvious that you all are well loved. You are still loved.
Yes.
And people want to see you all back together.
Correct.
All right.
So we want to give the people what they want.
We want to give the people what they want.
Even if it's just here on our Dependency,
yes.
we want to
yes,
serve
because
the people.
Your work must continue. Marlan Hopkinson, we want to thank you. Marlan, thank you so much for spending the morning with us. And say hello to
Yeah.
your family for us. We appreciate you all giving us the time to
Yes, I will.
listen to you all right? God bless you, and we'll keep in touch.
Hi, everybody.
Thank you very much, Marlan.
There's a secret, eh? How Marlan tell each other take Tony Lee job, boy.
Oh God! And with that, we have Sterling Henderson coming up next with
God,
the 12
Marlan.
o'clock news.
Marlan?
That's secret. Don't tell nobody. Don't tell
Bye,
nobody.
Marlan. Take care, my brother. God bless you. One love. All right. Senior Soup, closing remarks.
Hey, listen. Members of the public, this is me. And this is our country. The red, white, and black. Anyhow you want to put it. And we need to take care of us. If we depend on other persons to take care of us, we're lost. Let us see if we can get this thing back up and running. The longer we wait, the worse it gets. We can't be going into 600 and every year we checking the benchmark is 600.
Yeah.
And then the benchmark next year might be 7. And then the benchmark next year will be 8. So we need to refocus. For those who are parents, you need to pull back your children back into their fold and show them, listen, teach them the way.
Yes.
Early o'clock. Yes. Like the foundation of learning, it comes from the home, right? So if that is happening there, then we might be on our way.
Thank you very much, sir. God bless you.
you.
Yeah, well, give me that now.
Did yours?
Yes.
I tried to teach it.
Hey, wonderful. It was a pleasure,
Anytime.
sir.
Anytime.
Thank you so much. Marlan, thanks again. And we have major news, Natasha, Tamika. You'll have a good week. I will see you later. Major news up next with Mr. Sterling Henderson. Take care.
Good afternoon.
Broadcasting from Port of Spain, Trinidad, this is the